Have you ever had someone completely shut down after a breakup, disappear without warning, only to later come back, confused, distant, and maybe even saying they miss you, but still not ready to reconnect? If so, chances are you are dealing with a fearful avoidant. And in this video, we're diving deep into what's really happening in their world after a breakup, because it's not as simple as they don't care. In fact, usually it's quite the opposite. My name is Luna A. May, and I'm a life and attachment style coach and author of books on attachment styles. What attachment style are you? And understanding and overcoming anxious attachment. And my mission is to help people understand their emotional patterns and reconnect with the secure, loving relationships that they truly deserve. And before we go further, let's define what a fearful avoidant actually is. So, if you are not familiar with the term, a fearful avoidant, also known as someone with a disorganized attachment style, carries both anxious and avoidant tendencies. And what does it mean? This means that they deeply crave connection and intimacy, but at the same time, they fear it. So they want closeness, but also feel overwhelmed by closeness. Their behavior might look confusing from the outside, warm one moment and distant the next moment. Often this comes from a childhood where love felt unpredictable, where caregivers were sometimes supportive, but also frightening, unavailable, or inconsistent. So, as a result of that, as adults, fearful avoidants struggle to feel safe in relationships, not because they don't want love, but because they learned early on that love wasn't always safe. And today's video is for anyone who's tried to love a fearful avoidant, or maybe is a fearful avoidant trying to understand why breakups feel so disorienting. So let's walk through the emotional landscape and the hidden timeline that unfolds for fearful avoidance after a breakup. So, starting with what happens right after a fearful avoidant goes through a breakup. At first, they usually don't feel much at all. Not because they are cold, but because they are numb. Because you have to know that fearful avoidants often grew up in unpredictable emotional environments. So, love may have come with chaos or even pain. So, when they go through something intense, like a breakup, their nervous system doesn't flood with grief right away. Instead, it goes into protective shutdown mode. So they start to distract themselves. They might overwork. They might dive into hobbies or socialize more than usual. They might scroll, binge watch, or overexercise. They might do everything in excess. And from the outside, they might even seem okay, even thriving. But on the inside, they've activated a very old survival strategy, which is avoid the pain at all costs. And then a few weeks go by, the silence continues, and then something shifts. The feelings start to creep back in. Maybe it's a song, maybe it's a memory, a quiet evening alone, and suddenly everything they buried starts bubbling into the surface. And this is the stage of delayed grief. And it often hits after they've already ghosted or pushed you away. So in this stage, they begin to wonder, what if I was wrong? Did I sabotage something real? Why did I react like that? And here is the hardest part. Fearful avoidants often don't trust their own emotional responses. So even if they miss you, if they regret how things ended, they question whether it's safe to reach out. Or worse, they believe it's too late. So they might stay silent. And you, on the other side of the breakup, feel completely confused in this situation. And you may think something like, if they cared, they would say something. But they are locked in their private battle between longing and fear. So let's go deeper into their inner experience. Fearful avoidants often have two dominant fears that fight for control. And the first fear is the fear of abandonment, the terror that if they are vulnerable, they will be rejected or left. And the second fear is the fear of engulfment, the belief that if they get close again, they will be overwhelmed, lose their independence, or be consumed. So, as a result of that, they are stuck. They want connection, but they fear it at the same time. They want space, but they feel lonely. They crave love, but they can't stay open to receive it for long. And this can lead to a cycle of fantasizing about you, but taking no action, or reaching out only to withdraw again, or even blaming you internally because it feels safer to be angry than to feel pain. And this isn't immaturity or manipulation. It's the nervous system dysregulation. And it's often rooted in very early relational trauma. So let's discuss now what happens if you reach out. So let's say you decide to send a message. You might say something like, I've been thinking about you. I miss you. I'd love to talk. Here is how a fearful avoidant might respond. So, first of all, they might light up. They might feel seen and relieved. They might even reply quickly and warmly. But that response doesn't mean that they are ready to reconnect. After the initial height of the reconnection, panic often sets in. So suddenly they worry about what it means, what you expect, and whether they can handle it. So as a result, they pull back again. And this doesn't mean they are playing games. It means their nervous system isn't regulated enough to sustain emotional closeness without fear taking over. It's the push-pull cycle, and unless both people are aware and actively healing, it's incredibly painful. So many people ask me, why do fearful avoidance act like it's over forever and then come back? And here is the thing. When a fearful avoidant ends a relationship, they often believe it has to be final, that it's the only way to stop the emotional overwhelm. But they rarely process the breakup in a clean or complete way. So they leave, but they don't let go. They move on, but they stay mentally and emotionally entangled. That's why even months later, they might watch your stories, text you at 2 a.m., or reappear like nothing happened. And that's because they've never finished the emotional conversation because they didn't know how to do it. If you're resonating with this, if you see yourself in these patterns, please hear me when I say that you are not broken. It's just that you learned to love in a way that protected you from pain. But what once protected you may now be keeping you from what you truly want. Remember that you don't have to rush into connection. You don't have to force vulnerability, but you can start small. You can begin to track your emotional triggers, and you can practice staying just a little longer in the discomfort. So you can tell someone, for example, I need space, but I want to stay close. And that's healing. And if you're someone who is loving a fearful avoidant, know that you cannot heal them for them. But you can hold compassion while still honoring your own boundaries. Breakups with fearful avoidance can be confusing, painful, and full of mixed signals, but they are not meaningless. There is a deeper emotional logic underneath this silence and distance. And when you understand that, whether you're the one holding space or the one trying to heal, everything changes. If this resonated with you, please share your story in the comments. I'm always happy to read it and answer any questions that appear. And see you in the next video.